5 years ago, I was in a room similar to this one, doing the 4th round of interviews for a job that I really wanted. There was a silence, and then the next question came. Okay, teach me something. That caught me completely off guard. The interviewer was open to learn from me. With one question, he had just reversed the power dynamic in the situation. He made me feel not tested, but trusted. And I discovered that it's possible to get a job at Google by reciting a poem in Spanish. These types of discoveries can only happen when we're open. Open to learn, and open to unlearn. What do I mean when I say unlearn? I'll use an example. Can I see a show of hands if you've ever moved countries or apartments? Okay, many of us know the joys of packing in that case. If you're anything like me, you completely underestimate the amount of stuff that you own. And so you end up last minute throwing fancy wrapping paper and candle holders, just everything that is left into this one box that you'll put in the basement of your new apartment and will never actually open up again. Sounds familiar? Sometimes opinions, perceptions, concepts become like that box. They get dusty, and it's useful to open them, see what's in them, and throw away what doesn't serve us anymore. This is what I call unlearning. It is a practice, and today we'll do exactly that. We'll go down to the basement and open up 2 metaphorical boxes together. The first one is play it safe. Now, when I decided to recite a poem during a job interview, I was taking a risk. And before knowing that I had actually gotten the job, I was filled with self-doubt and regret. So I didn't tell anyone about the poem situation. I was scared. I thought they were going to tell me to play it safe. We are told to not take too many risks and are invited to follow a more predictable, safer path instead. This is an important box to open. Why? Because it has major implications in our lives, from what career path we're supposed to follow to what our romantic life is supposed to look like. And today I want to look at it in relationship to skills. There is also an important association related to the safe path, which is that there is only one definition of success. But is success the same for everyone? Does success mean the same for me than for you? Okay, returning to our skills lens, I want to tap into your wisdom. So using the traditional hard and soft skills division, so as a refresher, hard skills are technical and specialized skills, such as coding, and soft skills are emotional and social abilities, such as empathy, right? So what type of skills do you associate to playing it safe? Hands up for hard skills. Hands up. I don't see many hands. I want to see more hands participate. Okay, great. So we see a couple of them. What about soft skills? Okay, interesting. There's a couple of, well, different views here in the room, which is interesting. And some of you did not participate, and maybe it is because you were thinking, wait, is this really an either-or question? What tends to be more accurate is robust research. And maybe you're familiar with this paper that the World Economic Forum published on the future of jobs, where they identified the top 10 skills that were required to flourish in 2020. As you can see, they're mostly soft skills. Does this surprise you? Coming back to our previous question, is there something to unlearn for you? Now, I asked you about associations. And I think associations are very interesting, a very good tool for unlearning, because they highlight perspectives that we might not be aware of. And if we use the lens of semantics, we can see that hard is often associated with traits such as strength and resistance, qualities that are stereotypically more masculine, while softness is linked to gentleness, delicacy, weakness sometimes, which are stereotypically more feminine traits. There is an important disclaimer to be made here, which is that when I talk about feminine and masculine, I am not talking about gender identity. The feminine is not exclusive for women, just as the masculine is not exclusive for men. They are sets of qualities that men, women, non-binary, trans people, everyone can develop. And just as we can have both soft and hard skills, we can also have both masculine and feminine traits simultaneously. We need to unlearn that this is an either-or scenario. Reality is more nuanced than that. The magic words are both and. And we can cultivate these traits and integrate them and balance them both at an individual level and at a wider social and cultural level. So let's go down to our basement and pick up the second box. Think of a leader. Take a moment to become aware of the image that comes to your mind. Are you thinking of a specific gender, race, age, outfit? Are you visualizing an individual or a group? How do you know this is a leader? Is it because of a formal title, or is it a set of behaviors? What behaviors? Researchers at the University of Yale did a study to understand what traits we associate to leadership. What they found was that masculine traits, such as assertiveness, were seen as necessary, whilst feminine traits, such as tolerance, were desirable, but optional. Something like the cherry on top of the cake, right? Nice to have, but not a deal breaker. More importantly, they found out that there was a perception of having a trade-off, having to choose between being likable or being competent. Can we not be both? Now, of course, we're talking here about stereotypes. And just as all models are wrong, but some are useful, stereotypes are never accurate, but sometimes they can highlight interesting insights and point at the bigger picture, at the trends that are going on underneath. And I can sense a pattern emerging here. We tend to underestimate the importance of the feminine. We saw it with skills, and we saw it with leadership traits. Now, if we want balance and integration, I think we have to unlearn this. This pattern has been holding us back for a long time. We need to recognize that both feminine and masculine traits are as important for leadership. But how do we change those patterns? Well, we break them. We do things differently. And language can be a powerful tool for this. We can create our reality with language. We can start by reclaiming the word feminine. Use it consciously and proudly to describe ourselves and our leadership style. I'm curious to get a sense of how you feel about this. So I would love to see your hands up if you feel comfortable using the label masculine to describe yourself. Can I see a show of hands? Okay. What about feminine? Okay, also a couple of hands. Did you raise your hand twice? Can I see that? Okay, interesting. We have a lot of diversity in the room, which is interesting. But maybe you didn't raise your hands because you find labels tricky. I get that. Labels reduce us. They don't get to capture all of us, right? But labels can also give us clarity. And the first words that came to my mind with relationship to leadership was busyness. To be clear, not business, but busyness. And I found this interesting. We've come to associate success with being busy. So somehow we think that the busier we are, the more we are accomplishing. And so exhaustion is becoming the new norm. And slowing down is becoming a privilege. Is well-being a privilege? I think it is urgent to remember that we have a choice, that we can slow down, we can open those boxes and throw away what is no longer serving us. To me, leadership is not so much about doing more, but being more. And yet action is important. And maybe you're thinking, okay, in theory, unlearning sounds great, but how can I put it into practice? What can I do? And there's one simple tool that I want to share with you that we use at Google to integrate unlearning into our day-to-day. It looks like this. Before starting a meeting, an important meeting in which you're going to make a decision, start by sharing your bias. So instead of starting with the discussion, have a quick sharing circle in which you state your individual bias. For example, I could say that I tend to favor views of people that look like me. Why is this practice important and powerful? Because of three things. First, it develops our awareness. We can never throw anything away if we are not aware that there's a box there in the first place. Second, it makes biases visible, and it encourages us to speak openly about them, rather than pretending they don't exist or that we don't have them. We all have biases, whether we're conscious of them or not. And thirdly, it keeps us accountable. It doesn't dissolve biases altogether, but it gives us a choice and a responsibility to keep us in check. It also develops the mindfulness around how we make decisions, how we form opinions. I sense that often we focus so much on the content, on the what, that we forget the process, the how. And maybe you're seeing that with yourselves today. If you're taking notes, see if you're writing down ideas and concepts, or if you're also writing down how to integrate them, how to embody them. I think wisdom doesn't only live in the head. I think our bodies are very wise. And that's why I like to think of unlearning as a dance. A dance? Yes, a dance. Why? Because it's an embodied practice. It requires adaptability and openness and curiosity and being brave. Now, all of those skills are useful way beyond the dance floor. They're essential life skills. So maybe we can use the dance metaphor for life in general. I find it useful to have these images because they turn insights into something beautiful. And this is exactly what poetry does too. They invite us to constantly unlearn and see new possibilities. So today, I want to finish with a poem. This is a stanza of The Invitation. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you can risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. Thank you.